In this video, I want to talk about SVGs. SVGs is a file format for images that'll be your alternative to a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF. So modern browsers now support SVG. So let's head on over to Can I Use? And let's type in SVG. And as you can see here, it's supported on IE11, Firefox, Chrome, Safari. So this is really great because SVGs, unlike a JPEG, for instance, or a PNG, will not lose any quality when viewed on a Retina or a high-resolution display, such as on your iPhone, high-end Android phones, and a high-resolution monitors, such as the new iMac 5K. So it's always going to look great no matter the size. So there's an article here on CSS Tricks all about it, and he even has a little bullet point list of why you should use SVGs. They're small file sizes that compress well, scales to any size without losing clarity. So again, so if you ever zoom in on a logo on a graphic that's an SVG, it's always going to look great. It looks great on Retina displays. Design control like interactivity and filters. So this part's the most interesting part because an SVG, unlike a PNG or a JPEG, is actually XML code, which resembles HTML code in the way that you can actually select tags and style it using CSS. So you no longer have to open the file up in Photoshop and change it there. You could also do it in your CSS. So here's a little example of what SVG looks like. Here's the XML code right here. So starting from here at the top, all the way down over here is the actual XML code that makes this graphic here. And as you can see, you can hover over it, you can change it. Here's the CSS that built this out. So some just examples of how you can style it. So it's just like any HTML code, you can select different tags and apply your colors and things like that. So let's go ahead and create that. Let's do that in Illustrator. So for this, you will need an Illustrator, or you would need something called Inkscape. Is a free alternative. So this is for free. So if you don't have Illustrator installed on your computer, you could use Inkscape to create SVGs as well. So this is just an alternative option for you. But we're going to go ahead and work with the Illustrator. So I have Illustrator's Creative Cloud 2014. So let's go ahead and open up a new document. And this is one thing we need to do is that because by default most of the time Illustrator opens as a CMYK for print, so we'll need to change that to make sure we're working with an RGB. So let's do that as well. So we go head over to File and then Document Color Mode. Just switch to RGB so we're good on the same page. And let's go ahead and just to preface this, I am not a very good artist with Illustrator, so I'll do the best I can. I'm sure you could do much better graphics than I can. So I'm just going to make some shapes here. Let's do a circle. You can change the thickness of the circle. Let's do maybe a different colored eyes. Let's go a little red color. There we go. And get these guys in here. And then let's see here, arc tool. Do one of these smiley faces. So, so nothing too amazing here, but as you can see, this is a simple SVG. So, where would you use an SVG? This would be great for logos, especially logos on a website, where you have a sort of a graphic like this, where it's a vector based as opposed to being a pixel based, which is something you would do in Photoshop. So for logos, you would use an SVG. For photographs, you would still use a JPEG. PNGs are still good if you ever need to do transparencies, but I think moving forward, depending on what you're going to create, most of the time you could do it with an SVG as well and still, use it as a transparency. And then GIF or a GIF is especially now used for animations. So I would say if you're going to be working on the website and you need to include a logo, try to do it with an SVG. So here's our SVG graphic. So what we need to do is somehow use this on our website. So you head over to File, Save As. So you have a couple of different ways you can go about it. So do the SVG regular, click on this, save it on my desktop here, call it Smiley or Smile, just for Okay, and over here, these are your options. So the first thing to do is keep it as SVG, keep it as embedded. You can save it and link to it like you would a PNG, or you could take the SVG code, which is the way I recommend you do it. So you could save it and then you could just do like an image source and then include the graphic. However, you can also do the SVG code, which is what I recommend you do. So when you click on this, it's going to open up a little text box for you. And what you need to do is select just this portion here, SVG to SVG. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to head back over to CodePen. Let's do a new CodePen. And in here, in the HTML portion, just go ahead and paste it right in. As soon as you do that, there's your graphic. Very easy. So one thing to keep in mind though, you see how everything's really large? So if I inspect this, let's see. See, the actual graphic is actually huge. It's like 899 by 1163. So we don't want this. So if that happens to you, this is what you have to do first. So I'm going to erase this, go back over here, close this. And before we actually do a save as, what we need to do is go to Object, go to Artboards, and we need to do Fit to Artboard Bounds. So what that'll do is get rid of all the extra white space around it. So now you can go back in and save it as an SVG and grab the SVG code. So I'm going to go ahead and SVG, save, SVG code, select just this portion, not this. You don't want to select this whole thing. You just want the SVG portion right here. Copy that over, head back over here to CodePen, paste it in, and there's your graphic. So it's going to scale, so it's going to look great in any size. So we should probably keep this in a container to make it a little bit smaller. But see, as you can see here, SVG, it's just like HTML, so you can actually target that SVG and you can actually style it. So let me show you SVG. Let's give it a max width of 100 pixels. And there you go, it's 100 pixels now. Let's give it 200 so we can see it. And let's center it. Okay, so as you can see here, it didn't center, and the reason why is because SVG is an inline tag. So if you look at this in our inspector, if we do display block, we'll get the result we want. So there it is centered. So it's inline, so keep that in mind as well when you're styling with an SVG. So there it is centered, perfect. And maybe add some margin top and bottom. Cool. So because it's like HTML, so we can actually target these different tags and do different things with them. So if I use my inspector here, move this over to the side, and then if I target just the circle, let's see here, we got fill, looks like it's white. So if we target just the fill part, so let's do that. So that's inside the circle. Okay. Bring it down. So let's see here, circle. So we got fill. Let's do black. There it is in black. Let's see what else we have in here. Stroke. That's maybe orange. Let's see here. So you can see all that stuff. You can barely see it there because we also had that as an orange color. So if we look to use the inspector again, that's that little circle there. So you see the fill for circle. So if we change that stroke to, let's say, white color, should be able to see it. There's the eyes. See that little smiley face there? So that looks like it's a path. So let's target that path as well. Path. And inside that path, there's a stroke color as well. So we go stroke, hash, and it's white. There it is. So as you can see, very easily, just like HTML, you could target different aspects inside your SVG graphic and style it right on the fly. So you never have to, once it's created, the initial SVG graphic is created, you can just go ahead and target parts of its XML code and change it in your CSS. So again, this is fantastic to make updates, anything like that you need to do. You never have to go back to Illustrator to make any adjustments. It's all can be done through CSS. And as you can see here, it can resize, perfectly, and if you zoom in, it's going to look just great. It's not going to blurry, it's not going to look pixelated, it's going to look in high resolution displays, it's going to look perfect. So this is an introduction to SVG. So if you don't have Illustrator, go ahead and check out Inkscape, and you can use this as a free, it's a free and open source alternative to Illustrator.